from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome. I'm Rabbi Jonathan Blake. I'm joined tonight by Cantor Danielle Rodnitsky, who joined the clergy of Westchester Reform Temple on the first day of this month. Here we are on the last day of this very muggy and humid July. I'm happy that August is around the corner. Even more, I'm happy that Tisha B'Av, the most painful day of mourning, a day of sadness, a day of remembering destruction, is now in the rearview mirror. Yesterday was Tisha B'Av, the observance having begun Wednesday at sundown, concluded last night at sundown. So today is the 10th of Av, and we are in now a cycle away from pain toward love, away from suffering toward hope, away from destruction toward rebirth, away from pain toward comfort. This Shabbat is in fact given a special name on the Jewish calendar. It is called Shabbat Nachamu, the Sabbath of comfort. And starting with this Sabbath, words of comfort are traditionally shared through the Haftarah reading, the prophetic selection that is offered on Saturdays. In this case, all of the Haftarot for this week and the following 6 weeks, so for a total cycle of 7 weeks, between Tisha B'Av, the day of destruction, and Rosh Hashanah, the new year, the day of rebirth, include messages of comfort from the prophet Isaiah, starting with this week's message, Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami. Comfort, comfort my people, says God. What a poignant, prescient, and poetically symmetrical message with the times we're living through now. How we need not just to hear words of comfort, but to be emissaries of comfort, each to the other. Maybe you live with somebody who is, like you, discomforted by the toll of the pandemic, which now stretches into a 5th month. Maybe someone you know is suffering from illness or is recovering. Maybe someone you care about is feeling lonely and isolated. This is a time for you to be an emissary of comfort, starting on this Shabbat Nachamu. With God's help, let us all be emissaries of comfort so that when Rosh Hashanah comes in 7 weeks, our world will be a holier, healthier, and more healed place. So we're very happy to join you for this Shabbat. And this is the first time since we began streaming our services online that we have invited members of our viewing congregation to come into the Zoom with us. Now, you can't see them yet. Later on in our worship, we'll welcome Andy Frankel, our congregant and new trustee to our board, as our darshan to deliver the Devar Torah. But at the end of the service, we already have more than a minion of congregants who have entered the Zoom and who are attending this service, and who will be able to chat with each other through the chat box and the panelists window, the participants window, and who will get to lay eyes on each other at the end of the service. So if you would like to come into our innermost circle and be part of the Zoom itself, the information was provided in your e-blast. So we're very happy to ask you now, each in your own place, to join me in lighting these lights, these candles for Shabbat. Two nights ago, I was lighting in the same living room a yahrzeit candle in memory of all our people who have suffered at the hands of those who would destroy us on Tisha B'Av. Tonight, lights of healing and lights of hope for Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Lechu neranana, come let us sing, let us praise. Lechu neranena, yai dai 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 ladonai, ladonai, yai dai dai naria, naria, yai We continue with Lecha Dodi. Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmianu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad, u'shmo echad, l'shem u'tiferet ve'litila. Yai dai dai, ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. יאי די די, יא לה 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 Lecha Dodi, יא לה 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 לקראת כלה, יא לה 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 ב'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, אורי אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. יאי די די, יא לה 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 Lecha Dodi, יא לה 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 לקראת כלה, יא לה 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמונה עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה.
lai lai, yai lai 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 la lai, yai lai la lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 la lai lai. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Yai lai la lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 la lai lai, yai lai la lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 la lai lai. So we don't have to wait 7 weeks to experience a little bit of healing after the pain of Tisha B'Av. We actually need only count 6 days after the 9th of Av, and we arrive at a special day in the middle of the hottest time of the year. On the 15th of this month, we celebrate Tu B'Av. In Hebrew, the word Tu, spelled Tet Vav, means 15. I know, this is confusing. In Hebrew, 2 is 15. You know this from the holiday in the winter, which is kind of like its wintertime counterpart or a flip side of the coin, Tu B'Shvat, which is Jewish Arbor Day. And now we're approaching Tu B'Av. It's just 5 days from now, which means that on Tuesday night, if you wanted to celebrate in the way ancient Jerusalemites used to celebrate Tu B'Av, single women would put on white robes and go out into the fields and dance around and seek to attract a mate. Because Tu B'Av is Jewish Valentine's Day. It's a holiday of love. Of course, I'm not really expecting, especially under a pandemic, nor am I encouraging that you should actually go outside and seek to attract a mate in public places. In fact, wear a mask if you go out, or maybe just stay at home. But here's something we can do to bring a little bit of love into our hearts and into our lives, if not the romantic sort, perhaps the sort of love that our world really needs right now. The origins of love begin in a Jewish principle that's found in Pirkei Avot, chapters of our ancestors that's framed in the Mishnah and later the Talmud. There we find these words, Dan lechaf zuchut. These words mean, judge other people favorably. Give people the benefit of the doubt. We don't always get the opportunity to know people deeply, and first impressions can be lasting. But what would change in our lives, what might change in our society and the world if we went into every new human encounter with a mindset of Dan lechaf zuchut? Please God, as I meet this person, let me judge him, let me judge her, let me judge them with a measure of favor, the same favorable way in which I would hope that they, upon greeting me for the first time, would judge me. When we begin to do that, we move from suspicion and fear to hope and love. And we traverse a little bit of the distance from Tisha B'Av toward the rebirth of Rosh Hashanah, meeting just a few days from now on Tu B'Av. And so we say these words of love between God and the Jewish people. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. We praise you, God, for the love that you have given to the Jewish people, the love that you have given to the human family, the love that each of us has the capacity to access in our hearts and share with others. So join me as we offer together these words that unite us all in love. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. And as we continue chanting our prayers together, know that the prayer that we've just chanted, Shema Yisrael, and its following verses, beginning here, Ve'ahavta, are in fact taken from this week's Torah reading. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'aderech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beinenecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
In honor of this week's Torah portion, we wanted to sing a beautiful English translation of those words we just chanted. Love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And these words which I command you on this day shall be in your heart, shall be in your heart. Teach them faithfully unto your children. Speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise. Bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be a symbol between your eyes. Write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates, and upon your gates. Teach them faithfully unto your children. Speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise, and when you rise. We continue with Mi Chamocha, our song of freedom. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef eleh יפקד אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, להעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 It's just amen. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת לעשות, את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם, ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת, שבת ויהי נפש. אדוני שפתי תפתח, אדוני שפתי תפתח, ופי Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Ve'konei Hakol Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot U'mevii geula livnei v'neihem Le'ma'an shemo be'ahava Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We now take a few moments for the prayers of our hearts. We pray privately. נחמו, נחמו, עמי אומר אלוהיכם, נחמו, נחמו, עמי אומר אלוהיכם, נחמו, נחמו.
Once again, Shabbat Shalom, and I hope that your presence here with us tonight does bring a little bit of comfort on this Shabbat Nachamu, that beautiful setting of the words from this week's Haftarah, Nachamu, Nachami, Nachamu, Ami, Amar, Elohechem, comfort, O comfort my people, says God. We're set to music by Ilana Arian and lovingly offered by Cantor Rudnitsky. Thank you so much. It is our custom throughout these summer months to invite members of our congregation at large, and especially to haze any new trustees to the Board of Trustees by inviting them to offer a Devar Torah, a few reflections, words of Torah. A few months ago, we heard from Joan Frankel as she accepted this year's Brotherhood Award on behalf of the entire congregation, which acknowledges volunteer service not only to WRT, but to the wider community and the world. And now, I guess Joan gets to enjoy watching you, Andy, her husband, receive the same honor and enlighten our congregation with your thoughts about this week's parasha, which is called Va'et Hanan. Andrew Frankel has been a member, along with his wife Joan, of Westchester Reform Temple for 18 years, meaning a new inductee into the Temple Chai Society, which is an honor for congregants who've belonged to the temple for 18 years or more. Andy is currently a member of the very busy Finance Committee. We thank him for his years of service in that capacity. He participates in the Florence Melton Mini School for Adult Jewish Learning. He participates actively in the Temple's Men's Club and has participated regularly in Torah study over the years, in addition to joining with his family, with Joan and their two boys, George and Matthew, in sharing Shabbat. And so, Andy, we're very grateful that you're with us this evening, and we look forward to you enlightening us with your Torah.
Thank you, Rabbi, and thank you, Cantor. As the Rabbi mentioned, today is a very special Shabbat, following Tish B'Av and kicking us off into that 7-week period into Rosh Hashanah. Today's portion is Va'et Hanan, which covers the 3rd through 7th chapters of Deuteronomy. Va'et Hanan literally means "I pleaded," which are Moses' words that begin this parsha. First, Moses pleads with God to allow him to cross the Jordan into the land of Israel. And then he instructs the Israelites to heed the laws of God so that they and their children and all future generations may prosper in the land that they have wandered 40 years in the desert to find. The first plea, as Moses is preparing the people to enter the promised land, he tries one more time with God to allow him to cross over into Israel as well. As we know, Moses has been punished by God for disobeying the Lord by striking the rock to get water for the people, instead of speaking to the rock as instructed. God is steadfast, refusing Moses' pleas, and instead instructs him to climb the mountain and see the land from afar, because that's the closest he's going to get. A lesson that not even Moses is above heeding the word of God. From here, Moses begins the first of several major orations that makes up the core of the book of Deuteronomy. When asked, Rabbi Hillel famously summarized Torah as, quote, "What is hateful to you, do not do unto others. The rest is commentary. Go and learn." Well, I think there is a little more to the Torah than that, but if you want the condensed version, you would do well to study Va'et Hanan, which has been referred to as Torah's greatest hits. We get the 10 Commandments, the Shema, including the V'ahavta prayer, and the confirmation of God's love for us, the chosen people. This all comes with immense responsibility to follow the rules and remain faithful to God. These tenets make up the core of Jewish belief and identity. We get it all in Va'et Hanan. Moses reminds the people that though he is leaving them, they must maintain the covenant with God if they want to stay and prosper in Israel, and it will take a faithful effort. It is clear that Moses is not just speaking to the individuals assembled there at that time, but is addressing the Jewish people, present and future, parents and children across generations. If a future generation breaks the covenant by, for example, praying to other gods or making sculpted images, they will be wiped out, banished, and scattered among the nations. Moses promises to the people, quote, "Observe God's laws and commandments, which I enjoin upon you this day, that it may go well with you and your children after you, and that you may long remain in the land that your God is assigning you for all time. Moses then recites the Ten Commandments and again refers to future generations, sharing God's hope that the people will, quote, always revere me and follow all my commandments, that it may go well with them and with their children forever. This leads us to the climax of the portion. So we just heard, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai alone. A call to the community that is the affirmation of the second commandment, which is invoked repeatedly through Moses' speech. Followed immediately by the V'ahavta prayer, this passage is the heart of the extended Shema prayer, which we are instructed to teach to our children from the earliest age and to recite twice daily, in the morning and in the evening. When we recite the Shema, we're fulfilling the mitzvah of studying Torah, right from this Deuteronomy chapter 6. The portion continues by directing us to teach our children how we were slaves and God freed us from Egypt, language that will be very familiar as it finds its way directly into our Passover Haggadah. The section concludes with one of the Torah's strongest statements of God's special relationship with Israel, that we are the chosen people, literally loved by the Lord. As long as we love God and keeps God's commandments, God will keep this special covenant to the, quote, 1,000th generation. It's an uplifting conclusion to the portion, but it includes a reminder that God will instantly turn on us if we reject God. As I've tried to highlight in my overview, the topic of parents and children and educating generations is at the core of this week's Torah portion. It is the recurring theme that overarches all of Moses' instructions regarding the rules and laws, quote, observe them faithfully and make them known to your children and your children's children. It is not enough that you heard the words at Mount Sinai and learned to revere God, but you must teach them to your children. The commandment to pass these teachings on appears most notably in the V'ahavta, quote, take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. V'shanatam levanecha, impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you're away, when you lie down and when you get up. Inscribe them on your doorposts of your house. This commandment is about making our belief in God, the only God, part of our everyday family life. This passage from Deuteronomy, the Shema, is the prayer that is wrapped in every mezuzah and is likely that you have it posted on the entryway to your home. The ancient rabbis directed that the first thing you should teach your child when they learn to speak is the Shema. So they start with the core foundation of Judaism. This is an instruction to all of us as parents, not to teachers at school. Our children might be considered Jews by birth, but it's the parents' responsibility to instill them with the fabric of what it is to be Jewish. The mitzvah of teaching your children not only includes the laws and instructions from God, but also the memories to connect us to both past and in turn future generations. In chapter 5, verse 2, Moses proclaims that, quote, Adonai made a covenant with us at Sinai. It was not with our ancestors that Adonai made this covenant, but with us, the living, every one of us who is here today. That's the quote from the Torah. But in fact, none of the people that Moses was addressing was actually at Mount Sinai. That generation died out in the desert. I interpret this phrasing as meaning that God made this covenant not with specific individuals, but with the Jewish people, past, present, and future. In effect, you and I and all Jewish people were there at Sinai, and that by being taught by Moses and then by our parents through successive generations, we develop a collective memory of sorts. Even if we were not physically present, we feel as if we experienced it. If this sounds familiar, this is the theme that runs through our Passover Seder. We say, we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, and the Lord freed us from Egypt with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. We and us. We were all there, and when we teach our children, they can experience it as well, and they will be prepared to teach future generations. Of course, the fifth commandment, also recited in this portion, is to honor your father and your mother, that you may long endure in the land of Israel. Not only do parents have an obligation to educate, but the children have an obligation to honor and hopefully listen. This commandment could also be an inference of the parent-child relationship between God and the children of Israel. Though most scholars agree that this commandment refers to literally honoring father and mother, it can be argued that an appreciation for one's parents and their teaching of Torah, which has been passed down generationally, will influence that child's awareness and appreciation for God. And because one cannot have a valid discussion of Torah without at least referencing Rambam, I will confirm that he teaches, and I'll paraphrase this to make this gender neutral, a minor must be taught Torah by his parent. He states that each person is obligated to pass on the tradition to his children, to educate them in Torah and mitzvot, and to describe to them the great day of assembly at Sinai. And they too are obligated to teach their grandchildren, which comes directly from the commandment in chapter 4, make them known to your children and your children's children. He expands his position to say that it's incumbent for every learned man to teach every student, but he acknowledges that the mitzvah to teach one's child takes precedence over the mitzvah to teach anyone else. As I read this section, and particularly the V'ahavta, I think of our family's personal experience at Westchester Reform Temple, and specifically at sharing Shabbat as our children were growing up. It was a mutual learning experience, praying together in a service, reciting the Shema, and learning from our rabbis and our fellow congregants, parents, children, and clergy learning together. I think we as parents can be guilty of delegating our children's education, secular and religious, exclusively to professional teachers. These teachers do a wonderful job, never more so than during this incredibly disruptive period we're all living through. But if we follow the Torah, we must take on the responsibility for educating our own children as well. I believe it is extremely important to my children's Jewish education for them to see me and Joan engaged in ritual, prayer, and learning side by side with them, observing firsthand the behaviors and beliefs that we wanted to instill in them. We fulfilled the commandment in the V'ahavta as we sung it together with our children in a memorable upbeat tune. It worked for me too, complete with the hand movements. When you lie down, when you wake up, Bidivarta, bum, ba, bum, bum, bum. We thank our clergy and our educators at WRT for creating unique environments, unique learning environments to help us fulfill these commandments and our obligations as Jews. We are called the children of Israel, and God refers to us metaphorically as his children, but it will be literally the children who will ensure the continuation of the Jewish people and the continued engagement in our covenant with God. As adults and parents, it is our responsibility to teach them first the Shema, then, as Rabbi Hillel would say, a lifetime of commentary. We must create the fabric so that our children can say that they too were at Sinai. They too crossed the Jordan, and they too will follow the commandment to teach their children, and so on through the generations, so that we may continue to not only survive, but prosper as the Jewish people. Shabbat Shalom, and I wish you all good health.
Shabbat Shalom, Andy, and Yasher Koach to you. Let me acknowledge publicly that you, Andy Frankel, together with Joni and your entire household, you don't just talk the talk. Well, now the whole congregation who's tuned in tonight knows that you can, in fact, talk the talk when it comes to Torah learning. But you also walk the walk in all the many ways that I mentioned in the introduction, but even more in some of the ways that you alluded to toward the end of your remarks. It's not enough just to say to your kids, go to the temple and get filled up with Jewish gas, and then we'll send you off along the superhighway of Jewish commitment. You got to walk the walk. By modeling for the next generation what we hope they themselves will embody, we actually all come closer to an understanding that indeed we continue to stand at Sinai. So thank you, Andy Frankel. Please stay on the Zoom with us. We're just going to bring you back in. We have a wonderful congregation that's come into the Zoom room with us tonight, by the way. We have close to a double minion of participants here on Zoom, as well as the dozens and more who are tuning in via our streaming platforms on the Temple website, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. Once again, Yasher Koach, and I know the congregation joins me with Cantor Rudnitsky in thanking you, Andy Frankel, for teaching Torah, for talking Torah, and for walking Torah. Shabbat Shalom. And so we are going to stand not at Sinai perhaps, but still together, linked as one community, not only through the miracle of technology, but through the primacy of memory. For us, to stand at Sinai means not only that we have a recollection of our origins as a people, It also means that we understand our shared commitments as a Jewish people. And that includes those who are standing with us, but also those who cannot stand with us. In the case of this moment in our service, because they are stricken with illness or loneliness, and it's our job to pray with them and for them. So use your heart, use your thoughts to reach beyond the isolation in which you might currently find yourself. Bring into your heart, invite into your consciousness the face of a loved one who needs healing. And we're going to offer together a Misha Beirach prayer. If you would like to share names out loud where you are, you may do so at this time. Additionally, as a WRT congregation, we're praying this week for Martin Schiff, Deborah Kapnick, Nicole Schusse, Amelia Austin, Joyce Schertzer, Leah Greenspan, Aviva Tzila bat Esther Bela, Dan Sokolov, Jeffrey Millman, Chava Batsara, Eliyahu Chaim ben Fredel, Sheila Fried, Tanya Romanoff, Yitzchak Yona ben May, Yaakov Hirsch ben Rachel, Malka Tzipora bas Rachel, Tamar bat Malka, Heschel Meir ben David Achana, and David Zev ben Fruma Etel. Again, you can add the names of loved ones whom we've not mentioned. We pray together with these words of healing and Debbie Friedman's beautiful melody. Please feel invited to join with me. Mi shebeirach avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. If you'd like to rise, we continue with Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. We pause now to acknowledge our loved ones, those who died at this time of year in years gone by, those taken from our midst in recent days. As we remember them, we invite the mourners in our community to stand where you are. In the following order, those who are within the first 7 days of remembrance, you may rise. If you are within a first 30 days of having laid to rest your loved one, would you please rise? For those who are within a first year of mourning, please rise. Tonight marks a yahrzeit. Would you please rise? Let all who are moved to stand with you give comfort on this Shabbat Nachamu by standing together, as we did at Sinai, to recite the words of Kaddish and hear the names of our loved ones. WRT is remembering those taken most recently: Hyman Sugar, father of Joel Sugar; Lawrence Solomon, father of Liza Lee; Mitchell Slater, husband of Pamela Slater and father of Lana, Amelia, and Julia Slater, son of Rita Slater and brother of Andrew Slater; John Simon, brother of Ann Elman; Doris Lou Beck, mother of Bruce Beck; Paul Coburn, father of Eric Coburn; Donald Kay, brother of Harriet Sobel; Randy Guggenheimer Jr., father of Randy Guggenheimer; and Paulina Muchnik, great aunt of Cantor Danielle Rodnitsky. And those whose Yahrzeit we commemorate tonight: Celia A. Aloff, Morris Meyerson, Alfred Berger, Helen Berger, Adam Tartell, Richard Lou Burkhoff, Muriel Rakoff, Lillian Birnbaum, Howard Boyle, Bernard Burton, Harry Bronstein, Bess Byron, Harold Levine, Laura Fitterer, Anna Sertilman, Carmen Correa, Dorothy Dolans, I. Elmer Ecker, Rebecca Cohn Edelstein, Claire Feldman, Florence Rosenthal, Clara Fialk, Edna First, Sarah Gelb, George Gersh, Beatrice Gover, Abe Gruber, Isidore Held, Mindy Joy Herman, Vivienne Isambert, William Jager, Harry Jareski, Michael Kasher, Suzanne Kay, Thelma Kessner, Victor Kotowitz, Helen Leipzig, John Lyon, Jesse B. Menon, Teresa Myers, Lee Malot, Andrew Novick, Lillian Klein Pollock, Milton Pollock, Louis Roseman, Arthur Rosenthal, Herbert Ross, Sarah Samuels, Ralph Shaler, Adele Schwab, Florence Simberkoff, Gloria Siriani, Paul Siriani, Howard Francis Stock, Ruth Tunick, Ronald West, Milton R. Weston, and Walter Usen. If I have inadvertently mispronounced a loved one's name, or if you have names to add to our commemoration, kindly speak your names at this time. And together let us speak words that have brought tremendous comfort from one generation to the next. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, b'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lamei amaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. If you're still standing, you may be seated. Couple of announcements. Please join our Torah study community and me tomorrow morning at 9:30. I look forward to greeting you at 9:30, doing a little bit of schmoozing before we sit down to study this week's parasha, about which you have heard much from Andy Frankel tonight, Vayet Hanan in depth, with a special focus on a subject that we did not cover in Andy's wonderful Devar Torah, that of the relationship between Israel, the people, and Eretz Yisrael, the land. Specifically, we're going to examine Deuteronomy chapter 7, which appears to command total annexation of the Holy Land. And we will look at that chapter in light of challenging conversations surrounding Israel and the Palestinian territories today, particularly with an eye toward the conversation around annexation. So I know you'll want to join me for a very robust and vigorous conversation where questions, thoughts, and opinions will be welcome, as long as they're offered in the spirit of Torah and respect. So join me tomorrow. The link is, of course, on our website or in the weekly e-blast for our weekly Torah study from 9:30 to 11, with study commencing at 9:45, and a conversation open to the entire community about annexation. And we look forward to continuing praying with you throughout the summer as we build on this Shabbat Nachamu, cross over into Tu B'Av, our Jewish Valentine's Day, next Tuesday night and Wednesday, and make our way steadily toward Rosh Hashanah, a time where we can celebrate rebirth and the promise of healing, even if we still have to do it with the safety precautions that are so, so important. So please don't let up your guard. Please remember that we all stood at Sinai, which means we have a collective responsibility, one to the other, one human family, united in love, united in hope. So, before we conclude our service tonight, I'm going to put some more words back on the screen so that we can continue to share the many blessings that fill us on this Shabbat. And at this time, what I'd like to do is actually invite the other members of our praying community who did join us in the Zoom to come into the visible arena with us. And so what I'd like to do is just invite my colleagues to help promote all of our participants tonight to become panelists. And while they're doing that, I'm going to lead us in the Shabbat Kiddush. Here we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'rahatzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziat mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol hamim, B'Shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. L'chaim, Shabbat Shalom. And now I'm going to put everybody up on the screen so that we can see one another. Shabbat Shalom. It's really nice to be with all of you. Once again, a heartfelt Yasher Koach to Andy Frankel. Nice to see you with Joni. I see Franklin and Lizzie Spicer. I see Sandy Edlitz. I see Bob and Debbie Miller. A big Shabbat Shalom shout out to what looks like a very, very comfortable outdoor. Oh, there's Sarah Benowich. Hello. And Ruth Raisfeld. And Len, Shabbat Shalom. Hello to Isaac Sonnet Asor, our cantorial intern. Rabbi Levy, who is doing all sorts of amazing stuff behind the scenes tonight. Thank you. David and Trish, welcome to telephone.
Jesus Christ.
Hello, okay.
Jay.
We've got Steve Maskett, Carol Princer Levy, and Vicky Kravitz, Steffi and Bill Miller, Eve and Jay Landau. Dottie Levin is also with us, and we've also been joined tonight by, I think I actually got all of your names. It's helpful to know you by sight. So, l'chaim, everyone. We're going to make motzi together. If you are quarantined with a person you know and trust, you can actually put your arm around that person. And Kelly baked me the world's cutest challah. Hi. So, this little guy. This afternoon. Good. We're going to make challah over. We're going to make motzi over challah. I see some of us are making motzi over corn chips. It's all good. It's summer. Will you please join me as we say our blessing together? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'teavon, Shabbat Shalom. You're welcome to unmute yourself if you'd like to say Shabbat Shalom to one another. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom, everyone. Hi, Lizzie.
See you tomorrow.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We're gonna sing one more song, and before we do, I just wanted to say we also tomorrow at 10:30 have a family summer Shabbat service. So for anyone with elementary age children, or if you just really want to pray on Shabbat morning, you are welcome to join us for that. I'll be with you tomorrow morning at 10:30.
I will, in fact, be recording Torah study for anyone who can't attend. That question was asked in the chat window.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Excellent. We're gonna sing one more song.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom.
Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Yasher Kol, Candy.
אלוהי נשור לשוני מרע, ושפתי מדבר מרמה.
Yasher Kol,
ונמחל
Candy.
עלי נפשי תהום, ונפשי